Good morning. This is a general live stream here at the launch site. It's at SpaceX in South Texas on I believe it's the 28th of April 2023. I'm going to go check something in the car. I'm going to get my microphone and I'll be back in a moment. All right. Good morning, everybody. Just got back from the truck. Yeah. Looks like they might lift something there on the left. Or possibly they took it off, but we'll see. Hey, good morning, Tony. Yep. Jill, Devlin. Good morning from Oz. Good stuff. Be back in a minute. All right, good stuff. Yeah, doing good this morning. Jill, thanks. You can see the sky is blue, so we got very nice sunny blue skies. Probably gonna be sunny today. There was some type of a fire over at Massey's corner yesterday. Massey's old gun range there yesterday, now owned by SpaceX. I might get some shots of that today with the other camera, if it's still smoking or something. I think I might do that. Looks almost like they have some stairs or scaffolding that they're gonna lift there. We can see on the right side of the platform there, they have some scaffolding all the way to the top, and kind of toward the middle of the screen, there's some other scaffolding. So maybe they're building something with that other piece that they're about to lift, possibly. I get the whole tower in view here. Get the whole tower. Kind of what we're looking at. Yeah, Derek asks, where's the steel plate? Good question, Derek. Structure. Derek, yeah, they haven't brought it out, or maybe haven't finished making it yet. They're lifting, doing that lift. Let's get that lift. All right. There we go. Toasted. Sir Chris says stairs got toasted. I think you're saying toasted. Derek says the FAA won't let them without the steel water plate and the screen in front of the tanks. Question mark? Was that a question mark? Yeah, question mark. Yeah, Crossroads. There's a link in the description for the fragments on eBay. Yes, so that is a yes. Thanks for asking. Yep, Derek. This is history. You're correct. I believe. The Plouf asks, why a screen without concrete? I don't know if anyone's ever confirmed whether they're going to do any type of screen in front of the tank farm. There was, but they do plan to put a plate, is what I've heard, under the pad there. A thick plate with some type of water or something, cooling. A new hard drive for Sir Chris. Oh, good stuff. Yeah, I've got to get a few things today too. I've been putting it off for several days. New t-shirts and some other things as well. I got to get some new socks, t-shirts. I've gone shopping a few times, but haven't spent the money when I was in the store. I looked several times, but I haven't bought anything that I like. Henry says, Henry J. bought some debris here yesterday. It's already in the mail. Yes. Yeah, that's correct. Thanks, Henry. Yep. One person suggested that I make some type of like a certificate of authenticity, and that's something I might put together. And if I do put that together, I'll send it to either by mail in a letter or by a message on eBay, so that people can print that out and have that also in addition to the debris. Melstar says, 2 different temperatures can't coexist. What happens when hot gas hits cold steel? Okay, the Plouf says the staircase is good news because maybe why would they put a staircase on a unsteady foundation, huh? So the Plouf is suggesting that maybe the foundation hasn't moved on the Launchpad. Interesting. That's about where they're putting that staircase in the center, is about where the big crater is. The big crater is just behind that, underneath the platform, pretty much. So let me use my hand. The big crater is about behind the scaffolding here, kind of toward the platform there. Derek says, I would tungsten coat the legs and use aerogel between panels so it's portable for Mars. Aerogel between panels, interesting. So aerogel is a type of insulation where you could take you could put some of this, I believe you could take some of this gel and you could put it on your hand, and you could take a torch. I would not suggest doing this. This is just an example. And then you could, burn the gel, and then it would protect you, is what I understand. I've seen video of people doing that, so I'm just describing those videos, but pretty interesting. So tungsten coat the legs and use aerogel between the panels. So interesting. I gotta look more into tungsten coating. Thanks. So it's portable for Mars. Okay. Mary Miyuime says aerogel is too fragile. Marumi Yuime. Marum Yuime. I got you. Marumi Yuime. Good stuff. I'm working on the name there. Let's see. Melstar says we saw what happens when hot gas flame hits cold concrete. Interesting. Okay. Melstar, what'll be the what do you think it'll be when the hot gas hits the cold steel? Would they have to heat up the water inside the if it were cooled down with water and they had a big steel plate underneath there? What do you think will be the maybe in the beginning they'll have to, because you said two different temperatures can't coexist. What happens when hot gas hits cold steel? Would that what would be if they heated up the steel? What do you think would that be a solution? And then as the flame continues to hit it, maybe they could pump through some of the cold water. Maybe initially it's warm water inside the steel. Yeah, Derek says better than concrete. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. Sorry for the questions, everybody. Yeah, heating up first, then cool down. Yeah, Melstar says, yeah. Miguel, good morning, or good afternoon from Spain. Yes. Carl says with cold steel, the water would turn to steam and carry the heat away. Okay. A ceramic floor, that's a good idea. Schnack. Ceramic floor. Yeah, maybe in addition to heat, you have vibration and pressure too. So I don't know if I don't know how thick the ceramic would have to be, whether that could withstand the pressure of the Raptors. Marcus from Freedom, Kentucky. Melstar says the time of impact of the different temperature needs to be as close as possible. You mean the spread in the temperature, Melstar? Needs to carry the heat away instantly. The time of impact of the different temperature needs to be as close as possible. Are you saying the spread between the heat of the Raptors and the steel? I'm not sure what you're saying there. . when heat hits still. Okay. James says maybe from higher above ground they need to launch. That's a good idea. We're not sure if the platform moved yet. They had, I got a video 2 days ago, and there was someone up there with a laser, and apparently it was a 3D, kind of a 3D scanner modeler type laser. So I'm not sure if they've done any testing to see if it's moved yet with GPS or anything. But yeah, higher above ground might be an answer. I wonder what the difference in height would be as you go up every 100 feet, you know. The water table is high here. That's correct, Ken. Yep. We're about the launch pad there. The base of it is about. Let me use my hand. If you look at the horizon coming from the left, there's about 10 feet above sea level over here, so it's not very high above sea level. I'm not sure what the gravity is on Mars. I think I don't want to speculate. Can someone tell us in the chat what versus the gravity on Earth? What's the gravity on Mars? I know the gravity on Saturn is about 6% more than on Earth. 38% says tubular AP. Tubular AP says 38% of the Earth's gravity is Mars. Okay, so maybe it'd be easy to land on Mars just because it's not as because the gravity is less. Maybe. AJ, thanks for the answer. Also, Johnny, 3 on 3. No need for super heavy on the Mars. Okay, interesting. Maybe they could just land some type of a craft, a lander onto Mars, and I don't know. Cool. Yeah, so maybe they would only use a third of their Raptors. Maybe it'd be 30% of what we see here is maybe what they would use on Mars to get off the planet. So it would be about maybe 12 Raptors to get off of Mars. That's much more doable, right? Or say 38% of 33 is, can someone do that calculation? 0.38 times 33 and see how many Raptors they're gonna need. Pritesh says, since Mars doesn't have an atmosphere or has a less dense atmosphere, it'd be hard to slow down the Starship. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, be easier to lift off, but harder to slow down. Yeah. They have a set of stairs that they lifted on top of the stairs in the center there. Hey, SpaceX, thanks you. They just lifted these stairs onto the top of that other stack of stuff. Looks like a pair of stairs. Yeah, we can get, there is a set of stakes in front of the camera here, and there's a large rectangle around the launch site where we can't go inside of these stakes here. You can see one at the bottom of the screen here. But these stakes go to the right and all the way around the launch site. You can see there's one on the bottom left of the screen and one on the bottom right of the screen. So these stakes go in a big rectangle around the launch site. As long as you're outside of those stakes, you're good to go. Yep. We haven't seen any filling of the crater yet with any type of concrete. or I wasn't here during the daytime yesterday, but that hasn't happened yet, but we'll see. I haven't found any scraps of stuff, and there used to be a pile of kind of metal, sheet metal, over by the dumpster on the right, but it looks like they cleaned it all up, so they got rid of all the debris they'd piled up next to the dumpsters on the right. They sold the oil rigs, so those aren't an option anymore. Maybe they would find some other ships or something that they like. Tom, awesome. New job, made a DIY printer. Thanks, Tom. Black Knight satellite, awesome. But sounds like you're having a good time, having fun, Tom. That's important. Yesterday, I kind of remembered that the creativity is key, you know. You could do a lot of different things, but to stay in that creative space is, for me, one of the key things. Johnny says maybe a conventional flame trench and diverter would be best. Yeah, well, it will be interesting to see what they do. Yeah. Let me see. So DJ Tom Woofer, everybody, check him out. DJ Tom Woofer on YouTube. Awesome. Shuttered asked if SpaceX is going to build another OLM in Boca Chica. I'm not sure about that. I haven't seen any preparation or anything. Possibly there was over at the old Massey gun range. I'm not sure what we're calling the old Massey gun range, but there was a fire there last night, and they do have a, I think maybe an SPMT I heard may have caught fire or something. And they do have a Starship over there. It's going toward Brownsville on the left side of the road. So maybe they could be setting up another pad there. We'll have to see what happens. But Schlabber Memph, I haven't seen any scrap parts besides just some of the steel, which was crumpled up in a few areas on site. There are, I heard and I've seen some clips for some of the heat shield. It's a piece of almost like aluminum or some other type of metal that holds the clips onto the side of the Starship. Someone was showing me yesterday. He found one on the next to the suborbital tank farm, but I haven't personally found anything like that. Maybe Alex asked maybe if they're going to build another tower here. Let me see. That, after that first launch, that maybe convinced some of the investors. Maybe they'll do another investor showcase of the launch site here, because it successfully launched off the Launchpad, and even with all the trouble they had with 6 or more engines getting hit by debris or whatever, and maybe some type of hydraulic issue with the separation of the integrated Starship booster, it still went up past max Q and made it into pretty high altitude. So that may convince some of the investors up to this point that it's worth maybe building another something out here. Yeah. Yeah, Derek, as far as I understand, they sold the Phobos and Deimos oil rigs, so those are no longer in consideration. But maybe they'll buy something else or build something else. West says, move to Australia. That'd be interesting. John BBB says, steel is more flexible than concrete and wouldn't necessarily fracture from the shock of the Raptor engines. That's a good point. It's nice. Good point. Jason Spalding, it's Fondage. I think it's Fondage, Fondage, Fondage. There is a company that launches out of the water. They're in Romania, I believe it is, and they have a water rocket which works. I think it's a heated, superheated water or something like that. And I guess it comes out of the bottom of their nozzle, and it Aerospace is the name of it, Arcaspace, and they actually successfully launched out of the water in the last few months, and they have a YouTube page, and pretty interesting company. Oh, with just a G, no E after it. Fondage. Thanks, Tony. Simon asked about the storage tanks. Yeah, it's a good question. I haven't seen any work on the storage tanks, but maybe we will see some of that. I haven't even seen any aerial lifts over by the storage tanks. There is some grinding going on. So maybe they're doing some grinding over by the new staircase that they're installing. Actually, haven't heard any grinding since until today. So today is the first day where I'm hearing any type of grinding. I wasn't here during the daytime yesterday, but we could see two aerial lifts on the two yellow aerial lifts on the bottom there, and then they got the big crane. Let me see if I get my hand in the screen here. Here we go. We got two aerial lifts, one large crane, another aerial lift on the right, and the other crane over there. So with these two aerial lifts, that's probably where the grinding sound's coming from. Casaba says to maybe just put one Raptor engine at the test site and see if it melts the steel plate. That's a good idea, Casaba. That's smart. Alex says if it wasn't for the water table being so high, they could build a deep trench. Interesting. Alex. Thanks, Henry. Yeah, the website is awesome, and we have even more info than what's on the website too. But we use two programs right now. We use Confluence and we use Jira as well. Those are our project management software that we use to collaborate with each other, the team does. So we can simultaneously edit stuff. Microsoft has a good package as well. We just, it was a matter of choosing one or the other. And maybe down the road, we will add the Microsoft project management software as well. Because it has a lot of simple to use, the Microsoft one does too, a lot of simple to use features and integrations. I've heard GIJS says maybe the concrete exploding was predictable because it maybe wasn't dried out enough. Yeah, I've heard some other people say that as well. And in the last few days, someone said, well, how long does it take that type of concrete to solidify too? That's a good point. Setzer 6 asks, do they have to fire all the engines at once, or can they launch with just a few of them? Someone yesterday in the chat mentioned they could ramp up the Maybe they could ramp up the different engines one at a time, or several different ones, and maybe that way it would be less of a shock, or less of a kind of an immediate. So instead of full thrusters, they could just slowly amp up a few of them at a time, and maybe that would be less destructive on the type of foundation that they have right now. G, if you have any video of that stuff where you're saying maybe to pour some molten metal in a moist mold, I'd like to see that. Be interesting to see. Maybe put it on a tag a video with some of that info. Leave a comment with some type of video if you'd like to see that. Tomás, si puede escribir en inglés, estaré más bueno. Por favor. Derek says, if it was allowed to take off clean, it would have amazed everyone. Yeah, I believe so, Derek. It looked very good. I was watching the launch, and I didn't notice anything until we saw it was above our heads, and some of the Raptors were darker colored. That's when I noticed maybe something was going on, but I didn't see anything at the launch, but I wasn't looking that close. Yeah, Andres, thanks. I'll zoom out. I'll get some other shots. We kind of have a static view right now. Get the tank farm here to the right as well. You can see the tank farm here, and I haven't seen any lifts around there. This took so long to build that I don't think they're going to rebuild it. I don't think they're going to... yeah, I think they'll fix it. I don't think they're going to build a whole new one. This top of the orbital launch platform, the kind of the circular ring on the top there, it took them many, many months to make that. And that looked like it held up really nicely. Let me get a full shot of the site here. I'm not necessarily showing a lot of new stuff, so if you've been here and you're wondering what's going on, I'm just doing a brief overview, and it's mostly about chatting with people also. So see what people are thinking. That's the way I get a bunch of my news. I watch, I look at some of the Facebook groups and what's on Twitter as well, and then what people talk about here and send. I get messages occasionally too. So. Well, after this piece that they're installing on that staircase, maybe there'll be some more. So that's what we could possibly see happen in the next, I don't know, going forward. Because these stairs don't yet make it to the top there, so they'll probably be lifting a few more of those stairs. William asks Yang if there's any damage to the star hopper at the bottom right of the screen. Yes, there was. There's a dent in the top of on the backside. Somehow concrete went from over here all the way over to the right of the screen, and it actually the concrete from the base of the booster from the pad went all the way over into the parking lot over there too. There's way over there. So it and even into the field on the right. So there was it went a very far distance. So Somebody suggested maybe they could, to protect the tank farm, they could put some metal netting here, maybe with a small space, and they could protect the tank farm with that. But maybe they could put a net around the whole launch pad area, maybe 50 feet out or so. They could put a net surrounding the whole pad area there so that they could block any debris from getting launched into the surrounding launch site area. That's one. Just like you were going to go to a trampoline, the kids have these large, families can buy trampolines, and they have these nets around the trampoline, or even around a baseball field. They have the netting around there to keep the baseballs inside the field. Possibly a golf course or a mini golf course in a city. They have that netting around it. And they could do the same thing here with some type of metal, maybe a steel netting, and they could have it so that any debris doesn't fly off and hit the surrounding area. Kasaba says nets will melt fast. Cool. I think this is a temporary staircase being built because when they've done all the other static fires and launches in the past, as far as I remember, and I haven't been here that long, I've only been here about 2 years, but longer before that, I don't know if they left the staircases there, but they've always removed the staircases as far as I can remember. Yeah, if they set the net back a certain amount, they could keep it from melting, I believe. Donna says the ocean launch is great except for the wildlife. Yeah. Mark says, why can't they build down and out for a flame trench? They build buildings in wet ground, maybe in Venice. Yeah. Cool. So that's the general view of what's going on. Simon says infrasound would be a big issue for animals and sea creatures for a sea launch. Oh, that's interesting. Infrasound. So inside the ocean, the sound there would be a big issue. Interesting. The people at the Aerospace couldn't get approval to launch their rocket from the ocean, from the government over there in Europe. So what they did is they built a big cylindrical container, and they filled it with water, almost like a big fish tank, and they had their rocket in, or like a big cup, a big cup, like a cup, and but big enough to have their large rocket in it, and then almost like a large swimming pool, I guess, but deep as well. So they had this large, deep cup type structure that they put their rocket in, and they launched it out of that because they couldn't get approval to launch it out of the ocean. But it worked. It's pretty awesome. So that's maybe one way around the injuring the fish and wildlife type stuff, if you're worried about infrasound. Yeah, we're not sure about the net. It's just kind of something we've been talking about a little bit. Yeah, Ad Astra 4 says the Arca rocket is small, but that's true. But they have designs for maybe to scale it up by taking one rocket and putting it next to the other, and maybe have like 50 or 60 of these rockets, or maybe 70, close to 80 rockets or so. They could stack them all next to each other and fire them all. So if you had like one bottle rocket and you took 50 or 100 of them, and you were able to synchronize the launch of all the bottle rockets, and they were all tied together or stuck together with some glue. That's kind of what the ARCA rocket thing is. Their mission is to put a lot of the different rockets all tied together, and so they would have about 80 different engines on it simultaneously, and they would fire them all off simultaneously. So it's pretty exciting. I follow them on LinkedIn because you know, if you can get your rocket fuel from the ocean on any of these moons in the solar system, well, then that's you're leaping forward past even the SpaceX rockets and stuff, because if all you need is water and all you have to do is heat it and pressurize it, well, then you don't need to create liquid oxygen or liquid methane. So it's a unique type of propulsion. I've looked at some of the companies, and there's a company in the U.S. that's putting forward a radio frequency water rocket, which as the radio frequency hits the water, turns it into a plasma. So, and as it expands out the rocket nozzle, it creates lift. So their model is to go to the moon, get the water from the moon, from the South Pole, and use it for their rockets, and use it as a fuel, but with the radio frequency turning into a plasma. But Aerospace, I believe, is just using pressurized heated water. I'm not sure the exact process, but they're just relying on water. And they can launch it, they can stick it into the ocean, it can float around and stuff, the rocket can, and launch directly out of the water. So, pretty awesome. Maybe in the ocean they could have a large kind of a net underneath, like a shark net if you were in the ocean and you didn't want to get bit by sharks and stuff. Some of those people go in those cages. Maybe they could build a large shark cage underneath the rocket there, so as it rocket ignites, or as the water pressure gets released, it won't disturb so much of the fish and wildlife. All right, we'll get another close-up shot. I get some shots of the tower too. The tower looks really good. West says the Musk Tower. But since the Aerospace water rocket doesn't use any liquid oxygen or methane, it's not really a flame. It's just a water pressure, I believe, and heat. It's very hot water. So the heat of the water, I think, is the only really negative thing about the ARCA rocket. But other than that, it's pretty natural. There's no flame. Donna says the Starship makes a great particle accelerator. Interesting, Donna. Electric Dog says, wasn't the Apollo pad like a huge caterpillar tractor? I believe so. It moved very slowly, right? I haven't seen any defects on the tower. Good question. Some people have said that certain areas look a little scorched, but I haven't heard of any damage. Valiant Stallion says the Sea Dragon was one of the earlier. I gotta look into that, Valiant. I'm not familiar with the Sea Dragon. Mark says for the tank farm, just stop using the front row of tanks, fill it with sand, build a new row behind the back row. Old tanks become the barrier. Interesting. Let me get a view of what was just said there. So Mark was saying, here's a tank farm. To make these tanks here and to fill these with sand, right? And then put some more tanks on the right here. Or maybe they could do it toward us here, right toward the beach here. Or maybe put a few more over here and then put more over here on the right side. But as we look at the road on the right, that's is a decent idea, but this is where the tankers come in and offload. There's not a lot of room here. This is, once we get to, zoom out a little bit more. Once we get to here, well, this is the public side of the road here. So there's not a lot of room here, and the tankers have a very limited amount of space here to back up into the, to offload the gases and stuff, the liquid. So it's a space issue here right now. That's one of the things that they have. I'm sure, and maybe if they had a larger piece of property, they could push the maybe they could push the orbital launch platform back this way. But the Dogleg Park LLC isn't really that big. It's just a big rectangle. So they probably put the launch pad almost smack center in the center of the space that they have available on this parcel of land. So if they were able to buy some more property south, maybe they could do something like that. They don't own that much property here. This is a United States government and other people that own the surrounding property. There's also Fish and Wildlife Federal owns property around the area too. It's kind of a competition for ownership of property in this area right now. Stewart says the original staircase was damaged during the launch. It's in the middle of the crater. Oh wow! So you're saying they left the staircase there, and it was damaged? I was not aware of that. The name of the organization which kind of governs this area is the FAA. FFA, I'm not familiar with that name, but FAA is, that is, I believe, what you mean to say. Federal Aviation Administration. Okay, there's some speculation about whether this is a TV screen. So I know I'm shooting in 720 pixelation, but to satisfy some of the possibly curious people about whether this is real or not, I will step in front of the camera. How's that? Prop dirt, I got you, Andres. Let me do one more thing here then. Prop dirt or not, right? There you go. That would have to be a 360 screen. Zug's Metaverse, I got you. I can get closer, but not much closer. There's about another 20 feet closer I can get. When we're looking at reception in the area, once you get toward the lower you get in the surrounding area, that's this is all working off of cell phone towers. So when we get lower down, like over there by the fence, that's when we start to lose reception, even more so than where I'm standing now. So. Rob asks if anyone's heard any news about the quick disconnect arm. I actually got a bunch of close-up video yesterday, but it didn't. I lost power in the middle of filming, so none of that stuff got saved. But I have the camera with me again. I could take some more, maybe some close-up shots at the quick disconnect. Maybe that's something I should do. Yeah, Mike says with all the ocean water nearby, they could pump some of the water to the pad for the launch. Yeah, I believe so too. I haven't seen them do any stuff at the beach here. I don't know if it's a sketchy area as far as legality or permission from the surrounding community to use some of the water from the beach. But that I could see that happening and being a good solution. Yeah. It is seawater though, so maybe all that salt may or may not be good to be using. Yeah, salt water, says Rob as well. Yep. They don't have any. Water coming from the town or anything, so they bring all the water in by truck. So for every gallon of water that they bring in, they're paying somebody for that water. So water is a commodity out here. Even at Walmart today, water costs anywhere from $1.30 all the way up to $2 something for some of these quarts of water that I've seen on the shelf at Walmart. It's kind of amazing. I know you can get a refill if you want just a refill of water. It's much cheaper, less than $1. But if you want an actual physical plastic gallon jug, it's expensive. Hey, Sandeep. No work on the tank farm yet. So on my list, I have two things. One is to take some video of the quick disconnect today, and I can most likely upload that later with the Nikon camera, and also get maybe some video of the Massey's old gun range where there was a fire yesterday. But if there's anything else, let me know. Yep. Okay, Mike Meager says, NASA used seawater, no big deal. Pad 39A is still standing. Good. I didn't know they'd use that stuff, so that's good. Seawater is good to use. Yeah, a desalination plant would be smart, man. Yep. Mark asked if groundwater is also salt water. I believe so, because you would just get we just get the water from the surrounding ocean coming through the sand, right? It's not really it's not going to be fresh water if they dig down. Yep. Yeah, Mike. This is it's good to get this close. Yep. Nice to be out here. Donna mentions that maybe they could launch the rocket horizontally and they get some flame diversion from the launch angle. Yeah, I don't know how much fuel they burn through per second, right? But if they had excess fuel, that would be a good thought, huh? Almost like the Richard Branson rocket, where they take it up high into the atmosphere and then they launch it from the plane or something, and then it goes horizontally. But it's so heavy, you know, right? Maybe, I mean, it would be awesome if maybe some of the billionaires who have space companies got together. Maybe we could see a blending of the Richard Branson, Blue Origin, SpaceX, and maybe a few others. Maybe we could see if they all worked together instead of competitively. That would be kind of interesting. Yeah, that's the sea we're hearing, Johnny. The roar you might be hearing. Seth mentions maybe the danger of launching horizontally, right? There is also the spin launch, which is doing their thing, and they have a they create a vacuum inside of a chamber, and then they spin it really fast. And when they release the projectile, it breaches or breaks through the vacuum seal, and then it gets shot out into wherever they're shooting it from. So that one is kind of a projectile type thing. It'd be cool if they could blend some of it. West says BlackRock has $64 trillion. Interesting. Got to get in touch with those BlackRock people. Wow. As far as Branson is, I don't know much about their finances and stuff like that. So I did read a short article saying that Richard Branson was one of the creditors on the Virgin Orbit. So he was going to be, I think, in a position to buy back some of the shares of Virgin Orbit at a much lower price, which is very interesting to me when I read that. Hey, Ari, good to see you. But I'll say that once more. I believe Richard Branson is a creditor of Virgin Orbit, meaning when a company goes bankrupt or something like that, the people in the first priority, second priority. There's a checking order about who can gobble up or buy the remaining assets of a company, who has leverage. And I think Richard Branson is one of those creditors on his own company. So very interesting. Yeah, I believe the next time they launch, they'll have it much more dialed in as far as the next stage, or the next with all the next improvements, you know. Johnny says Virgin Galactic released 95% of their workforce. Very interesting. AJ says maybe the orbital launch mount ring might be tilted a little bit. Yeah, we're not sure yet. To be seen. Yeah, I did. Mark mentions there was a laser level on top of the mount. I uploaded a video where I got a few shots of the people. I was told that it was a 3D kind of a 3D imager, or just like you would do some type of 3D scan, maybe a 3D scanner or something like that. So I don't know if it was like a leveler or something, but maybe more of a scanner. Imager. I don't know how long this stream's gonna go, but we're still live. Yeah, Mike says that there's no basements down here in the Gulf. That's correct. Donna North says it took 20 flights to dial in the booster's landing. I think she's talking about correctly. How many flights will it take to get the re-entry problems eliminated? Interesting question. You know, they do re-entry now with the some of their other rockets here at SpaceX, so they have a leg up, at least as far as being able to dial in the Starship re-entry. You know, I guess reusability is the main goal, but if they can get it up into orbit, it'll still have the largest payload, I believe. Is that correct? You know, does the largest thrust equate into the largest payload? If that is true, then having the biggest payload volume capacity in the commercial sector will be quite a feat. Yeah, it is nice here, and today's a nice day. It's getting hot, so it's gonna have to be a t-shirt day. I gotta buy some t-shirts. Later, Alex. Thanks. Up in Michigan, good stuff. Commando Warrior. Says there was a mini earthquake here when the Starship launched. Interesting. Etienne says, are they rebuilding the pad? Yeah, I believe so. Currently, we're seeing they're adding a staircase to the east side of the pad there. This is the east. On the other side is the west. That's going to the west. But Mechazilla's arms are pointing north right now, or north-northeast. This, to the right of the screen, this is kind of a north-northeast. I'll add to that in just a minute. We can look at the quick disconnect. There is pointing almost directly east, and the Mechazilla is pointing about north-northeast, maybe about 15 to 20 degrees east, but north-northeast is the Mechazilla. Yeah. Thomas Sauerlander asked, was it the pressure from the engines, or was it the flame of the Raptors that destroyed the pad? Ari says shockwaves, huh? Yeah, maybe it was a combination, the heat, heating up the concrete, and then the pressure, sending it in every direction. Interesting question. Interesting question. FMC 123 says maybe Elon Musk may have said over 100 flights before they put humans on it, huh? Wow, that's gonna be a lot of flights. Well, the time here is currently 9:48 in the morning. Well, Mike says the vibrations heat. Keep in mind the Apollo sat on the pad a good 10 seconds with full thrust till it actually lifted off. Wow, that's amazing, Mike. Thanks. Well, I've done some arc welding, acetylene torch arc welding. Not acetylene torch cutting, I mean. Acetylene is a mixture of two different gases, oxygen and I believe, I'm not sure the other one, maybe, I'm not sure the other gas, but two different gases for acetylene. And when you initially start cutting a very thick piece of metal with the torch, you just hold it in one spot at the edge and you heat it up, and then once it gets red enough and starts to puncture through the metal, then you can start moving it very quickly through the rest of the metal. But 10 seconds is a long time. Wow. I'll just hark on this. There is a guy named David Adair, and he's talked about how in the kind of the early days of the shuttle program, as well as in some of the Skylab timeframes, they tested some of the manufacturing in space. What we see now with companies like Orbital Reef and other companies, Space Forge is another company today. they're working on different things, manufacturing for space. And David Adair was saying back in the 70s, I believe it was, and also the 80s, they had the Skylab and the early space shuttle programs, and they had made some smelted some metal in space, and the metal that's made in space, it's hard to control, but when it cools down, it doesn't have all the gravity, the influence of gravity in its cooling down process. So it's a much stronger and lighter piece of metal. And so if they were to create some of this metal that we see here that they're using for all these different functions up there in space, it'd be much stronger and lighter, 1,000 times stronger than, maybe 1,000 times stronger than titanium or steel, and lighter too, much lighter. So that's one of the solutions they have going forward. If nobody does it, maybe my company will do it, or maybe some other company. Somebody should do it in the public sector, because I'm sure they already do it in the defense sector. Yeah, Donna says arc welding is cutting is arc. Yeah, sorry, acetylene arc cutting is awesome. Yep. Donna says to Seth, can you say the specs for the circulation pumps? Is a question. Donna, electric carbon arc cutting is another way to say it. Good. That's interesting. Electric, huh? It took me a little while, but stainless steel refers to the stainless, and then the carbon, I think, refers to anything except for stainless. So there's like a carbon versus stainless when it comes to steel. Pretty interesting stuff. Mike says they would ignite the engines at about 7 seconds and then count down to 0, and then the arms release and rocket flew. Wow, okay. Maybe he's talking about the NASA Apollo thing. Donna says they use a special Cryo SS Starship. Yeah, I'd like to get a Cryo Starship for some of the moons past Mars, because as you get past the asteroid belt and beyond Mars, it gets really cold out there in space, and solar panels aren't really useful as you get further away from the sun, and it gets really cold on the surface of some of these moons. So a Cryo Starship where the metal is not going to get brittle from the different cold temperatures is important. Mike says, to encourage you to watch the old films of the launches from Apollo. It's amazing to see in super slow motion. Thanks, Mike. I will check that out. Thanks, I appreciate that. So if any of y'all are looking to maybe do a comparison between the Apollo launches versus the Starship, it'd be good to see side by side how long it takes them to launch in the type of conditions. Yeah. Cryo stainless steel. That's pretty interesting. Yep. But if they were able to manufacture this metal in space, maybe it would be the type of metal you would need for cryo conditions, you know. So I've done a little of the work. What I did is I took the David Adair video on, and he was talking about how you need if you had 6 what is it called? Okay, he was using sound. Apparently in the Skylab days, he designed some of the experiments for the smelting of metal in space, and he used 6 different speakers in a kind of a hexagonal framework, pointing toward the center of a certain area, where they eventually smelted, or they turned the metal into a liquid, and they used the metal to shape the they used the sound waves to shape the metal. And they used that pattern of a 6 speakers pointing toward the center in like a honeycomb shape. And one of the difficulties with that is that how do you have the sound waves merge? So I did I used OpenAI to do the math to figure out how do you, instead of 2 sound waves being, you want the sound waves to blend together and to merge. So how do you create it so that 2 sound waves, what kind of math or what kind of sound do you have to produce so that the sound waves are not in opposition, but actually blend together? Because just like in the body, where they say the blood follows the energy, where in traditional Chinese medicine, when they talk about the qi, where the qi flows, or where the awareness or the attention moves, the blood goes in that direction. So in the same way, where the sound waves moves, maybe that's where the metal moves as well. So where there's a sound wave, a flow of the sound, that's where the metal will move. So if you're in space and there's no gravity, you got to rely on something for the metal to flow along, to follow. So and if you can have these sound waves, maybe 6 different sound waves or whatever, flowing in certain directions, and you can blend or slowly, softly merge constructively, that's it, constructive, the 2 different sound waves. That's what you need to do to manipulate molten metal in space. So I used artificial intelligence to do that math to see what it would take to create a 90-degree turn in the metal, and then what kind of frequencies you would need to merge the 2 different sounds. And I got the answer. So you might do that yourself, check it out. Pretty interesting. But the metal is supposed to be produced in space super smooth, just like here on the Earth. If you take a piece of metal and you look at it under an electron microscope or some other not so powerful microscope, you can see the surface will have different curves and hills and valleys and other stuff. But if you produce it in space, then it's super smooth. And one of the benefits of having something so smooth like that, super smooth, is that you don't need any oil. So you can have 2 pieces of metal on metal, and it'll roll super easily without needing any lubrication. And the benefit of that is when you're in space on one of these icy moons, or even in a deep crater on the moon, is that your vehicle won't seize up. It'll continue to still function in those deep trenches and valleys on the moon and other shaded areas, as well as these super cold, icy moon surfaces. So when these metals are manufactured in space and they're allowed to cool slowly and have that super smooth surface, that's when we get the benefit in many ways. Yeah, I used artificial intelligence just to do the math for myself, but someone else in the 70s named David Adair did the math by hand, and he was the one I was learning about it from. He did it all by hand. Yeah, you just got to test. Simon says no way to know if OpenAI is giving you the right info. Yep, could be lying. Seth says, if he remembers correctly, the experiment caused the impurities to separate from the metal using the specific resonance of the said metal. Interesting, very interesting. You know, I've seen some experiments where they used sound to levitate objects. So if they produce a certain frequency, the object will kind of float in midair between the two areas of sound. Pretty awesome stuff. And then I saw something where you can isolate. You can by varying the frequency, you can. I guess a highly charged particle. If you have a whole handful of sand, right? If these were all particles of, this is very interesting. If you had a whole handful of ions, and you wanted to find I believe it's ions, if you want to find the most excited particle of ions in that whole handful of ions, you could. I think I saw this on the Something Lab. The Something Lab. It's a YouTube channel. You could lower the frequency, or you can lower the using audio. I think you could lower it, and as you lower the energy or the frequency or vibration, the less energized particles would drop out of the area, and then at the end you would be left with just the one highest frequency particle or ionization thing in that area, kind of floating in your area. I think it's the Action Lab. I think that's a YouTube channel where I saw it, but very interesting. If you had a whole pile of different ions and you want to get the most energized particle, you could. There's an experiment you can do, and it's a visual process. Very, very interesting. Sean Stevens says what they'll end up doing is putting a steel plate down onto the pad and pipes above the plate that sprays a lot of water. This will reduce vibrations and noise that the Raptors make. Yeah, I understand the steel plate thing, and I've heard. I'm not sure what they're going to do with the pipes and etc., but that sounds awesome. Yeah, thanks to Sean. Simon says he saw a floating frog as well. Yeah. With sound or something, right? Yeah, maybe, okay, Simon says yes, sound. Maybe they could, in the future, I'm gonna zoom out a little, IRE. Okay, this is a good segue. Maybe in the future they could have some, using what we were just talking about, some large speakers, 6 large speakers placed in a hexagonal pattern around a launch site. And instead of having a launch pad, they would just beam in the sounds from the 6 different directions, and the rocket would float right here. And at the correct time, they would ignite the Raptor engines without any tower or launch pad there, and it would launch up into space. So using the different speakers to float the rocket, and then from there it would just launch into space. Or maybe there would be a launch platform there, but then they would turn the speakers on and it would raise up about 50 feet because of the sound waves that have lifted it off the pad there. And then floating, they would ignite the Raptors and it would go up into space. Yeah, Andy says that would require a lot of engine energy, he imagines. Maybe they could have a nuclear power plant down there to fuel the energy required for the large bass speakers. Donna says the plate renderings she saw was flat with honeycomb passages between the 2 large plates, and above them were all the nozzles pointing inward. Very interesting. I didn't know there were any available renderings of the plates. Good stuff. Mark, I like it, Mark. Very good. Simon says, maybe a laser-assisted launch to initiate a push would be more efficient than sound. Oh, well. Cool. I just saw this Nightbot thing here, the purpose of Ocean Camera Space Corp. I got official notification yesterday from the State Corporation Commission by logging into their website that the Ocean Camera Space Corp name change has been approved and it's officially completed. Space Ocean Corp has been finalized. So I got to change that Nightbot thing to say Space Ocean Corp, purpose of Space Ocean Corp. Yeah, Irie says, how could they access the orbital launch mount? Would they use the elevator in the tower and access through the umbilical? Very interesting. Yeah, thanks, Seth. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. Been waiting, I think since March 10th or something like that for the completion of the name change. I got to change that too. Subscribe to, at least I got the website there correctly. Subscribe to Space Ocean Corp. Great. I got to fix that too. Kasaba says, or the tower arm to push the ship for a little faster. That would be interesting if the Starship were attached to the tower and they could kind of like shoot up a little bit, pull it up. Like if the chopsticks, if they had something that could grab onto it and move up at a certain rate, maybe like 50 miles an hour or so, and give it a little initial movement. That'd be interesting. Donna says, maybe a big rubber band from the Coyote television show. Acme rubber band. Yep. Like a catapult, right? They could have two large pylons here, right? And each one has a rubber band to the bottom of the Starship, and then they would shoot it up. That'd be an interesting idea. Muscapult. I like it, Donna. Muscapult. Chrono says maybe a launch tube. Railgun launch too, yeah, that's possible. Snowy asked, what does Space Ocean Corp do? We're kind of a beginning seed company. We're organizing a mission to one of the moons of Saturn. I'm probably going to end this in a few minutes. So we're organizing a mission to Enceladus to collect water. So a water resource company, but We have plans to maybe do some closer near-term stuff like space debris or something like that, removal. But we're planning a kind of a generational mission to Enceladus. It's going to take about anywhere from 5 to 8 years to get there, and another 5 or 6 years of planning from now. So about 15, 16 years from now, we might land on the surface with a something to collect some water. So we're a team of 14 people now, soon to be 17 people. We're hiring for 3 more project managers. One of them joined yesterday. A very experienced guy named John Kowalski, I think is his name, Kowalski, and very experienced guy. So we're a team of, I think, 14 now. We have 1 independent contractor, so 15, and we're hiring another 3. We're already giving contracts, so we'll be about 17 people maybe soon. But at the website there is a list of all the people on the team with their bios and everything. So, Space Resource Company for water. Space Water Resource Company. Yep. See y'all. I'll be finishing the stream in about a minute and a half, 90 seconds. Hey, Mark, yeah, send us an email or check out the company. Thanks. Yeah, Alan had a lot of great views last week. It was nice to see. But if you do !email here, you can get the email. Otherwise, it's paul@spaceoceancorp.com. Yeah, D1, thank you. Yeah. I picked something really difficult, and this was after many years of thinking since 2013. I finally came up with a good idea worth doing. So 2021 is when I started this. There you go. paul@spaceoceancorp.com is the email. Yeah, Johnny, Mark, Tom, nice to see you too. Seth, good stuff. Kronos, nice to see you. Donna, nice to talk with you. Kasaba, good stuff. Whenever you're watching this, wherever you're watching from, thank you for watching. Be well. SpaceX launch site will be here most likely tomorrow and later today as well. So we'll get some more shots down the road, I believe. Thank you. Take care. Be well, guys, gals.